The best way to reduce your monthly rent is not to rent.
Ken and Pine here with Smart Moves Realty today, talking about the reason people buy their home instead of rent. For most people, they do buy, and most of the reasons are financial. So this chart we're showing you today, this graph actually illustrates the difference financially monthly between owning and renting long term. And it does not include the value of the property going up or down. That's a separate topic. Right now, we're just focusing on what it does to your monthly expenses for housing. So starting out, taking a look at what we've done, you've got year 1 through 40 in column A. The cost to rent in this column and the cost to own in the next column over, which is the total of these two columns, which are the taxes and insurance and the principal and interest, which is your loan. So one of the great things about owning is you actually can do a fixed interest rate that doesn't change. And so over the life of that loan, it's going to stay the same. So you'll notice in this column, in column E, that the payments stay the same over 30 years. If you refinance to lower your payment, you could do that, but this is assuming that you kept the same loan for the entire time. And so when you take column D and column E together, it gives us the total for the monthly ownership cost. And you can see in year 1, it is more expensive. And this shows on the blue line, it's renting. On the red line, that is the monthly cost for ownership. And you can see that in year 1, it's more expensive to own monthly. And as you continue on, that changes because of inflation. So the inflation that we used for this illustration is 4%, which is pretty accurate. And the way that you can double check that is by talking to people who rented a long time ago to see how much they paid for rent. For me personally, my first rental, I paid about $400, a little over $400 a month, and $400 to $600 a month at the time for a first place was pretty typical. And that was in the late 90s. Nowadays, most people are paying at least $1,200 a month in rent. So this inflation pressure happens to the cost of ownership, the cost of renting. The big difference, and why you really see a difference in the blue line shooting up faster than the red line, is the home loan can be fixed. And so you can lock in the biggest portion of your payment can be the same each year instead of having the whole thing going up with inflation. What does go up with inflation when you own are the taxes and insurance costs. Those do go up. Typically, they don't usually go down. And so this shows as we go from year to year, you can see that increases, and the further you get in, the more exciting it gets. And you can see it on this red line versus blue line, that when you get to year 10, it's already noticeable, but when you get to year 20, that's when the gap really starts to happen on what the cost differences are. And then the biggest, most exciting part of this process is when people pay off their house. That portion, that whole column of the mortgage goes away. That goes to zero, and you still get inflation on the taxes and insurance, but your payment's gone down to zero. So you get a huge difference, a big drop there in your cost, which widens the gap between what people are paying in the market to rent something versus what you're paying. The other thing that happens too is that home prices go up with inflation as well. And so when friends or people you know are buying later than you, they're buying in at higher prices. And so their starting point is higher. And so it really makes it feel more and more affordable as you go. But it does take time. It's tight. It's more expensive at first, but when you get down to the end, that's when it gets really exciting. And I've highlighted in red how much the rent is after going 30 years, and you can see that it's almost $6,000 in rent monthly. And when that house is paid off, the inflation on the taxes and insurance puts the estimate to a little over $810 a month. Huge financial difference. And as time goes on, people will keep homes for 40, 50, 60 years in their lifetime. And so that gap gets even bigger beyond this point. But it really does show how much of a benefit it is to own instead of rent when you're doing it long term. In year 40, the rent is estimated to be over $8,300, and the cost of ownership at year 40, when you own and have paid it off, $1,154, just over $1,154. And so that is a huge benefit financially. It really kind of also explains why there's such a big difference when you're comparing people just starting versus people who have already, maybe bought a home 20 years ago. There's this cost gap that's pretty noticeable. The summary of this is that if you will do what it takes to own, then you are financially rewarded by keeping your costs down. Plus, you also get the benefit of increased equity from the value of the property going up. And if you get into the market where you buy a rental and you have two homes instead of one, then these things are amplified even more, bringing even more wealth into your finances. We enjoy teaching you about topics like this, helping you understand why people do what they do and what's smart and what's good for your own personal finances. And every situation is different. You need to be financially prepared to own. Owning when you're not ready is not a good thing. So one of the things that we can do is consult with you for free to go over your situation, help you know if it would be smart to buy or if you'd actually be better off renting. Owning a home is the largest source of wealth for most people, and it's an important part of family finance and personal finance. Hey, thanks for watching our video, and feel free to reach out for a free consultation so that you can know what the smart move is for your specific situation. Thanks.